Sorry, just Hi everyone, welcome to this special edition where we're going to interview a couple of people. I want to start with Rachel Chow, who is the National Coordinator for the Global Leadership Summits in Malaysia and part of the Global Leadership Network in Malaysia. Tell us a bit about this Global Leadership Summits.
Well, the Global Leadership Summit is something which starts in August every year in the US, in Chicago. It's a 2-day wonderful summit filled with world-class thought leaders that come together on the same stage. They will share their leadership insights. And after August, we then take this summit and we bring it across the world. It's translated to more than 60 languages, and it's present in more than 100 countries across the world. And all of us gather together to learn more about how we can improve our leadership and become better leaders in every place that we're put in.
And why is that important? Why is that important for people to become better leaders?
Well, I mean, we believe that everyone has influence, right? So when a leader gets better, that's right. Everyone has influence. Yeah, I'm going to plug here. So when a leader gets better, everyone gets better. Leadership brings about better communities. Businesses work for good. Communities are transformed positively. And so we really want everyone to capture that influence that they have and use it as how God envisioned them to use it for.
And one of the things you're doing is to get this dubbed into Bahasa, right? To enable everyone in every kampong, in every village to be able to become better leaders, right? To be able to experience Simon Sinek and John Maxwell and all these great thought leaders in leadership, right?
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Roshan. So, I mean, talk about the Bahasa speaking communities. They're a large community here in Malaysia, but at the same time, they don't really have access to these world-class leaders. And what you said, it's exactly true. Can you imagine John Maxwell speaking to a longhouse leader, there in interior where you take 3 hours out by boat to reach, but you have John Maxwell speaking to them? What kind of impact would that have for John Maxwell's session or teaching on character development or how to be a better leader? What kind of impact would that have if a whole kampong of people were to have access to listen, to learn, and to internalize and apply those sort of leadership principles? I think it would be just amazing.
Absolutely.
So that's one of the things we want to do here at the Global Leadership Network Malaysia. We want to get these world-class leadership development sessions translated, and not just translated, we want to get them dubbed as well, so voice over, so that it will be shown and taught in a manner that is most effective for the receiving audience to learn. Because, talk about the Bahasa speaking communities, they learn best through audio and visual. Written, yes, they can read, they can understand, but when you talk about absorption and the most effective way, audio and visual, that's the best way to really for them to learn and internalize the teachings that of leadership development.
Amazing. I'm looking forward to listening to John Maxwell in Bahasa.
Yeah. Do you want to be the voiceover talent? You want to be John Maxwell in Bahasa? I think that would be awesome.
Voice, right? But you're speaking about impact. One of how impactful is that it's been impacting many individuals over the last 13 or 14 years that
in Malaysia.
The GLS has been in Malaysia. And one person is Melissa Chan, who's
right.
with us today, right?
Exactly.
You want to give us a bit of a background of Melissa, and then we can have a conversation with how she's gone through this leadership journey and how the GLS has impacted her.
Yeah, sure. So Pastor Melissa Chan is a pastor in PJEFC, Petaling Jaya Evangelical Free Church. She oversees the cell group ministry and also oversees online engagement for the church, which is something very interesting. I don't think many churches have a pastor overseeing online engagement. And she has been attending GLS for at least 5 years, is that right?
Since 2008.
Oh, wow. Okay. So even more than that. Yeah, so that's a long time supporter of the GLS. Yeah, that's right. So so we invited her today for us to hear from her and for her to share how the GLS is
So maybe before we get into GLS, tell us a bit about your background and how you ended up, online, the online pastor and all that.
Not online pastor.
Sort of, right?
People don't say it's online pastor.
How did you get to this space and talk us through your leadership journey a little bit?
Thanks for this opportunity. How did I get here to this space? A little bit mini steps of obedience, I think, has brought me here. I actually have a biomedical background. So I'm a scientist, trained as a scientist.
Wow.
Was working on a vaccine for cholera.
Wow.
Part of my research time, really enjoyed it. Then somehow just one step led to another. And so in a sense, I find myself here, and the time when every year there's a checkpoint to say, I'm on the right direction. Is this where I want to go next? And the only time I didn't ask this question was during MCO. Yeah, and strangely enough, that's also when I became online pastor, the online engagement pastor. And I think that there's a lot of excitement in discovering a whole new ministry through digital also. So
Fantastic.
yes, it's a lot of discovery.
So from scientist to pastor to
Yes.
online celebrity.
Yeah.
Online
Oh,
celebrity.
no, celebrity. Just,
Influencer.
Influencer, that's the right
Influencing
word.
for good.
You've seen a lot of summits and you heard a lot about leadership. What's your take on leadership and what's your perspective on leadership?
one word, it's tough.
It is, yeah.
And I think it takes a lot of courage.
Mm.
Every day or every time I take these reflections, I kind of wish, Lord, can somebody else lead? I will make a very good follower. I will, but I think decision making, we are called to leadership and a place there as a privilege. So what do we do with that privilege? How do we grow? And there's something that we always say that everyone wins when the leader gets better. And so I think as leaders, that's our responsibility to keep growing.
And, the other aspect of leadership, and there's many aspects, right? One is that person who's up on the pedestal and communicating and casting vision and all that great stuff, right? But the other aspect of leadership is to be of service, is to shepherd.
Yes.
And that term shepherding seems to be thrown around a lot,
Right.
especially when it comes to church leadership and even now today, with what servant leadership and all that becoming buzzwords in organizations. What's your take on shepherding and leadership as a shepherd, and what does that mean actually?
What does that mean? I think when you think of shepherd, apart from leading the sheep, you think about feeding, and you think also about healing. And so that's I think very, very key to what it's not just telling you where to go. It's making sure you have enough nutrition to go where you need to go, and noticing that people are not always whole, and how do you actually help them get better? When I say get better, not necessarily increase in their level of skill, but how do they find strength to just take the next step? Because a lot of people may not want to take that next step. And so I think as a pastor, as a shepherd, one key area is to really care for them so that they improve. Prior to this, you asked me about a story, and I said it's very, very funny. I think it's a funny story I'm going through right now. In the church, you lead younger people, older people, and in my church particularly, we have a lot of older people. And my current situation is that I'm dealing with a very grumpy, abrasive senior warga emas who believes his opinions are strong, which is fine, but sometimes it comes off as really hurtful. My response as a person or even as a leader is like, stop, I don't want to hear this. But as a shepherd, I feel it's more of, okay, I hear you. Actually, what's making you so abrasive? But because he's older, also there's, in our Asian culture, there's a roundabout way to do it. So if I can use something, sayang dulu. Then after that, maybe pukul sikit, and then, but to get them going, and yet, but there is something that's probably gnawing at him, probably an injured foot, probably not enough attention, family's not caring enough, and so how do you do all that and still get him moving without disrespecting him? I think for the older citizens, it's really about honoring them. Yet, please listen to us. So that's a challenge.
So I like that. To lead, you need to feed and heal. To some extent, and I think especially now in this era of mental health issues and so on, that's the healing part, right?
Yes.
The being there to listen and just being a shoulder for people to let go and unleash their emotional baggage.
You don't have to fix the problem. You just kind of sometimes just sitting there with them, and that heals.
Yeah. But it gets very tiring, like you said. I mean, your earlier point about I just want to give up, right? And I know I remember a policeman I once talked to, and he said part of their cadet training where they give a final test to police academy cadets, and the final training was they give this ridiculous situation, a car crash in front of you, and then a robbery happens in there, and somebody's getting mugged, and this, and like a whole bunch of people. What do you do as a police officer? And you're only one there, right? And this, people give different answers, but he said the best answer was a guy who said, "I'll just go to a corner, take off my police uniform, and just join the crowd and pretend I'm not there."
So pretend he's not a police officer.
It's like, okay, not my problem, right?
Yeah.
But I think many leaders feel that way, right? It's like, I just want to take off my leadership hat and
That's
just
right.
mingle back in the crowd, and
That's right.
I'm done. I don't want to,
Yeah.
because there's too many things, there's so many problems, there's so much anxiety, there's so much pain, and everyone is looking to a leader for answers.
Yes.
Yet leaders also have emotions.
Yes.
Leaders also have feelings, have a lot of pain, right?
Yes.
Who's helping them, right?
Yes. And they're also fearful, I think, of making, because now if I make a decision, it affects others.
Absolutely.
So it's that's the responsibility of
It-
other
it-
people's
it-
lives. Yeah. So,
It is. In fact, I was just on a BFM. I finally, like, I used to have a show every week, but I finally they like literally like, oh, it's my last day. Please do a show with me. So I did one, and I talked about that. I think leaders are also going through pain, and there is a need for followers and employees and church members to also, be that leader or that healer
right.
to the many
leader.
leaders. So, but how do you do that? And I want to get to the GLS piece also
Right.
and some of your lessons. But how do you do that? How do you overcome obstacles and challenges? And in spite of all the noise, in spite of all the things, you still continue to lead, still continue to do the work of feeding and healing and other
Of
things,
shepherding.
in spite of the millions of issues and the myriads of problems that surround you.
Give a very Christian answer is by God's grace. I do think that a lot of what we do, there's a strength that comes from somewhere. But I also believe that it's also through community. So even as a leader, I believe very, very strongly in friendship. So while I may be her church leader, we are also friends. And I think as a friend, I can come and, oh, this uncle is doing this to me, I'm going to cry. Then she'll listen to me and say, "Son, just by being there, you get the strength to then, okay, now let's refocus. Now I need to do this." And so the community is very important.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I mean, many leaders struggle because of loneliness and nobody to share their decisions. But like you said, if you can find some trusted folks
right.
to share your burden,
Yeah.
I think that's very helpful.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about the Global Leadership Summit.
Sure.
Right? So you've attended since 2008, right?
Yes.
Which is the first leadership summit, if I'm not mistaken, in Agape, right?
Yeah.
In Seremban. I
Yeah.
think 2008 was the first one. So you've practically been in every leadership
No,
summit
no,
in,
no.
in Malaysia. I mean,
So,
almost. I mean,
yeah.
at least the
I
first
think
one you were there.
There was a hiatus. I think after the third one,
You took a break.
took a break.
Okay.
And then I came back looking for GLS because at some point I was called to more responsibility. And I realized, gosh, I know nuts about leadership and I need to grow.
Okay.
Who is going to teach me? I said, okay, think. Hey, I went back to this
This summit.
summit. It's inexpensive.
Yeah.
It's nearby.
Mm.
I can go and I can bring a team. I can even bring a team.
Yeah.
And so I think that's what we did. And from there, it's just been every year, okay, we always in faith buy 2 sets of seats and then we try to fill it
2
up.
sets of seats.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
two groups.
Two groups.
Wow,
Two groups.
nice.
Yeah. So
Okay.
just trying to get people in. And even if people don't come, I said for myself, I need to go.
Yeah.
So just to hear what's happening, there's always some treasure to take away.
So talk us through some of those treasures, right? I mean,
Oh.
what would one or two of those? I mean, memorable ones, right?
Yeah, that you
That
remember.
is that sparked something in you or inspired you to a grander vision for yourself.
Or even help you through those difficult
Yeah.
moments.
My favorite speaker from GLS is Gary Hogan. Okay. And I think when he came back recently, I was like, oh, yay! And it's still as good. It's just, oh, he's got white hair too, just like me. And I was like, yay! But I think it was that first GLS, 2008, when he brought out the questions, how does a suffering world know that our God is good? And I watched that video like, I think 3 times for myself, 4 times with friends, and so I can tell you what's going to happen next. And I think the story I remember, he said as a young boy, he went into a gym and he saw all these bodybuilders, just muscles everywhere. And he thought, what's it all for? And I think that's the thing I take back often is like, we have been given so much. What's it all for? How do I sow back? I think I'm very I think I'm very privileged, even though maybe we live in a world where we don't really have that much privilege. But I have food to eat, I have education, there's so many opportunities for me, and here I am. What am I going to use these things that I've received
Right.
for? So wherever there's an opportunity, so whether I'm a pastor, whether I'm a researcher, how can I use this, whatever I am, to bless the community, to build up people? And so that's, I guess, that question was, what is it all for?
What is all?
And it says, what's it all for?
Fantastic. Great. We've got a couple of comments from people who are watching. So RC says, hi, looking forward to it. Maybe we can scroll the comments. And then we have Wax who says, hello, GLN. So welcome, Wax. Welcome, everybody's watching.
Hi.
Great to have you with us. And we'll look forward to more weekly sessions in this GLN Malaysia YouTube channel and also the Facebook page. So thanks for sticking on. And if you have any questions for Melissa or for Rachel, just shoot them in the comment section below and we'll get to them as best as we can. Let's talk a little bit about online engagement that you're overseeing in PJEFC, right? It's something new, right?
Yes.
In organizations. I think it's not just in churches, right? I mean, you think about webinars and
Schools,
all schools
yeah.
and, online engagement is critical, right?
Yes.
How do you really engage online, right? I mean, is there some secret sauce or magic
sauce.
formula that we all need to learn on how do you really engage and enable? Because it's not easy, right? People can walk away. I mean, there's so many distractions in the house, and how does one do it?
So one of the things we always need to remember as people who are, some say it's broadcasting, is that there's a human behind that screen. And what does that human want?
Hi, human.
Hi, human. Yes, indeed. They are listening in. If I'm not speaking to that human, then we're just another TV lah. So I can turn off TV, I can watch it later. But if I'm asking them for response and they give me a response, that's great. But if I interact with that response, that's even better. So there's the social listening. There's also the real-time discussion that goes on. And so the engagement is not just about me telling, but me also listening. And when we answer their questions, actually people listen much better. So that's social and online engagement. The other thing we tried to move from is social media from being billboard to, for church jargon, ministry. So instead of just telling them, hi guys, we have a Christmas event coming, it's, hey, who can you bring? Share with us right now. Or which families do you want to bless this Christmas because they don't have enough food? Tell us. And so instead of using it as, we're doing this, we can tell them, join us in this work.
Right.
So
get them engaged or interacting
it's a very
with them, right?
slight nuance, but it takes a lot of effort because we're so used to just telling people, this is what we're doing. Come at this time. Come at this time. Yeah. So the engagement happening online itself.
Fantastic.
I'm just curious, have you seen an impact in, you're talking about nuances, right? So just changing the way you word things on social media, or like I'm thinking like the website as well. But how have you seen any fruit, or what has that led to in any change that has been led to its impact?
We call these next steps. So every time we have something on, we try to also list down what can you do next. There's a call to action, and the next steps can be simple enough. The part we're still working out is how do you keep measure of these next steps. What we see on our social media is that our own church members don't really use our Facebook, but we have people from overseas, people who actually keep on coming back, and some of them even have chats with us.
Oh wow!
So Facebook is nice because you have to be a registered user to actually, and you actually talk to we hope we're talking to a human being. Right? YouTube is a little bit harder, but we also hope that as we get to know people on YouTube, as we put out content that meets their needs, would they also want to engage with us? So it'd be a bit old school, but go back to email a bit. Right? So if they're open in the email, give us their phone number, we can contact a bit more. But it's not like beribu orang watching us lah. But we said that even if we can get 2 or 3 people by name, and then from there follow up with face-to-face interaction. Actually, we've done quite well for a department of 3 who are also doing 100 other things. So I think we're quite happy to see the fruits.
So I want to get back to leadership, since we are a leadership show and we're
Yes.
also a leadership organization. You mentioned one of your role models is Jesus as the ultimate leader. Talk us through why and some of the insights on leadership that you get from Jesus.
Talk you through Jesus. It's probably not going to be a
Or maybe
preachy
some
thing.
principles, right?
But,
We'll
principles,
limit it to
yeah,
about a
principles
minute
on-
and a half.
Principles on leadership. I think one of the things that I really take away from Jesus, which I think is different from the world, is the service. He came to serve,
Mhm.
not to be served. And I think as leaders, that makes us very different from the conventional idea of leadership. So when I'm a leader, I feel myself not just so what can you do for me, but how am I going to help you achieve what you want to achieve? And so I feel there's a humility that I see in Jesus, because we believe that he is God and he can do all things, and yet he invites us to serve with him, and he washes our feet. So it's just, if he can set the example, I think that's the thing that we need to gear ourselves to. And it takes a lot of tearing away of pride
Mm.
and deciding to do
To humble
the
yourself,
roll up your
yeah.
sleeves and
Yeah.
get down and do the
Yeah.
work.
Yeah, fantastic. I have to ask a question of communication, because every organization we talk to, there's always communication issues
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
as the blame or the alignment and this
Yeah.
and that, right? What are your thoughts? I mean, in terms of how can organizations better communicate, or what do you do, as a leader to communicate? Because I know you do the social, the online
Yes,
piece,
yes.
but internally in organization, especially like a church, right, with this technically volunteer organization,
Yes,
right?
yes.
You don't really have employees that you
Right,
can.
right.
I don't care, you do it, right?
Yeah.
How do
Yeah,
you
yeah.
deploy and communicate across such a diverse?
So we've noticed from our church is that private messaging is the way to go.
Private messaging.
Email,
Forget it.
not forget it. The opening rate for the WhatsApp messages is all-time high.
Mm.
If you put it in a group chat, not read. It's there,
Yeah.
But if you personalize it,
Personalize.
then but you can't personalize to 300 people.
That's
I mean, it's a
right.
lot. So then there are plugins to help you do this. There are apps that help you do this. But the importance of not just so one, when you're communicating to masses, personalization is important. But I think why it's so key to, at least in churches, is there's no, if we want to be on the same page, then good, clear communication is important. Now, there's this saying that John Calvin was a fantastic communicator. You may not always agree with what he said,
Mm.
but you will never misunderstand what he said. And so this is my aspiration, is that
To be like John Calvin.
yeah, it's okay if people disagree, but did you get my point?
Mm.
And I think that takes time and effort. Like this uncle that I was talking about, did you get the point? Then if you got it and we're disagreeing on the same thing, that's okay.
Yeah.
But if we are really different,
Diverse,
Yeah.
yeah. We look at apples and oranges.
Yeah,
then
then
it's
salah.
harder. Yeah, so get that alignment first, and then okay. And I want to just before we close out this session, I want to just make a quick plug for and maybe I'll put you on the spot a little bit for this thing called the GLS Local. So one of the things that Rachel and her team are working on is enabling every church, every organization, every company to be able to plug in your GLS and be able to do it. So you don't have to go and wait for a specific time. You just come in and call 30 people, 50 people, and boom, you run a GLS in your church, in your organization. So maybe Rachel, you want to share a bit about what this GLS Local is?
Yeah, so I mean, when we had the pandemic, one of the main concerns we had was people can't gather. And that's how traditionally the GLS was run. And so I think with most organizations out there, we had to pivot, we had to evolve. And we started asking this question, how do we increase our reach? So instead of people coming in, why not we go out? And so particularly for the GLS in English, that was one of the ideas that we had to run a GLS local. That is for the GLS, for the churches themselves to run their own GLS for their own people. You talk about, and for everyone, if you are a congregation, a church of 30, you can run a GLS. If you are a church of 1,000, you can run a GLS. And so by empowering them with this wonderful leadership development content, already we have the sessions put in, all edited. You just have to plug it into your screen, TV screen or big screen, doesn't matter. Click play. We will have the notebooks ready in digital format. You can print it if you want. It can be online if you want. And then you just have to come together, go through the sessions together and interact with one another. I love how Pastor Melissa just now talked about how she was able to get through the difficulty of being a leader by having friends and people who can understand what she's going through. And I really think the GLS is that time. If you were to come together as a church or as a group, attend the GLS together, and so you kind of have that same learning together, the next time when something difficult comes about or you have a question or how do I communicate with this difficult person, or how do I overcome this problem? You can actually have a common ground where we all attended the GLS together. And so when I reference a certain speaker or when I'm referencing a certain concept, immediately I get you. And I can walk alongside you and really be an even better listening ear because I know what you're talking about. So this is what we really hope that all churches in Malaysia do. Come and have a local version of GLS in your own church.
Fantastic. And if a church or organization wants to run the GLS local,
that's right.
How do they reach you?
Okay, so the best way is to email us or drop us a WhatsApp.
And we'll put your email on the screen
That's
in a bit.
right.
So it's rachel.chow@glnmalaysia.org. You can email me, or even if they just send an email to info@glnmalaysia.org, it will reach me. And we'll get that up on the banner up there
Yep.
In a bit. We have one question before we end from Justin Lai, and maybe we'll post that question in a bit. So there's info at glnmalaysia.org. You can send an email there. But the question from Justin is to Melissa, right? What's your word for this season? Wow, word. It's like a word. And maybe we can flash that question out from Justin on there. So there you go. What's your word for this season?
I saw this question just now, and I was really thinking through it.
Oh,
and
there you go.
Wow.
You got to cheat
Yes,
a
I
minute,
got to cheat,
right?
And it's persevere. I think it's all of us. Tough times are coming, whether emotionally, physically, financially, we persevere. But persevere together, and don't think you have to do it alone. So I hope that's encouraging. But that's something I will probably hold to myself also. To when it's tough, just keep going.
Right.
Whether we have to crawl through the mud, still keep going. Yes.
Keep going. Keep persevering.
Let us know. We'll crawl together in the mud with you.
Yeah.
If you need to. So I want to close out with one final word, maybe, or advice that you would like to leave with our viewers. And if it can be a leadership, your final sort of thoughts on leadership or some advice on leadership, what would be something that you'd like to leave our viewers as something that everybody needs to aspire to build or enable them to expand their capacity as a leader?
Thank you for this opportunity. I thought this through hard, and the thought that what I hear around society now is that people are hungry for leadership. They are hungry, and I've seen it. Nobody wants to make decisions. People are just tired, and when they're hungry, they'll eat anything. So if they don't see good leaders around, or if good leaders fail to equip themselves or are not growing, then malicious ones will take over. And so I believe that we need to begin where we are. I love the GLS tagline to lead where we are. We don't have to go somewhere to become a leader, but wherever we are placed, we have influence. Use that for the betterment of your community.
Fantastic.
So, yeah.
Thank you so much. And final plug, I think, is for the Global Leadership Network. There is one going to happen in a couple of weeks, right?
That's right.
What's the next one?
So we have an online GLS happening at the end of this month. You can still get tickets on our website, glnmalaysia.org. It's going to be on the 26th of November and the 3rd of December. I think 2 Saturdays, 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. online. And we're very excited that we can finally have a physical GLS again. That's going to be happening in February. Yeah, Pastor Melissa is very excited. I was telling her about it. We're going to have it in February of 2023. Details are also on our website, so check it out.
Yeah. So and then there's one in Kuching also that's going to come up March 3rd and 4th, I think.
That's right.
And hopefully a couple more others. I think we're having a Bahasa GLS sometime in March also. So there's a whole bunch of summits. If you haven't attended a summit, you must attend it because it is incredible. I've had the pleasure of attending a few now, and also the actual summits in the
In
US,
Chicago,
in
that's
Chicago.
right.
So
Yeah.
it's been wonderful. So with that, thank you everyone. Appreciate your time, Melissa
Thank you,
and
Pastor
Rachel.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely fantastic insights, and thank you for this enlightenment on how we need to engage online in a more
In a more personal
and
manner.
personal and
Responsive,
with a
responsive.
little
Yeah.
changes maybe
Yeah.
on nuances that we need to change. With that, thank you so much, and with that, thanks for joining us here on the Global Leadership Network Malaysia on our quick leadership insights show. Take care and have a great time, everyone.